All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to Collaboratory, the show where Mike Morris improvises an animatic with a little help from our audience. That's you. And say hello again, Mike. And we learn about the craft of storyboarding along the way. Good timing, sir. Now, this is an improv art stream that runs on audience suggestions. So let me ask you really quick, Mike, what kind of prompts are we looking for today? And keep in mind, the theme that we're kind of going with is going to be gaming, whether it's 2D, 3D gaming, and we can kind of mix it up otherwise. But let the audience know what we're looking for.
Well, we're looking for the same things we're always looking for. We're looking for a couple of characters. We're looking for a setting and a conflict to tell the story with. And, you know, I think my amazing co-host Chris should introduce himself a little bit too.
Oh, most definitely. My name is Chris DoQui. I've been working in the animation industry as a production coordinator for about the last 3.5 years or so. And Mike Morris is someone I've worked with in the past. I know how incredible he is at storyboarding and asked me to host this show. And I am so happy to be a part of this, taking these suggestions. So once again, guys, feel free to jump in with those suggestions. Whatever you might type might end up on screen. And as the story evolves, we'll keep including some of those suggestions. And who knows, maybe the initial prompt will change from what we have initially. So once again, our initial theme was kind of gaming, but at the time, if you have some kind of wacky ideas that you might want to see boarded out, throw it at us. I want to say at this point in time, we'll kind of take a little bit of anything, right, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a lot of the time, you know, the suggestions sort of evolve over time as well, like you were saying. And we like to see where things take us, you know. But again, this runs all on you guys, so hit us up with all your stuff. So Chris, we've talked a lot about on this show about breaking into storyboards, right? And it kind of boils down to get good and get seen, right? And that's kind of what we've treaded over and over again. Now, I have a question though. Like, you were coming from the production side, what's the path that way?
Interesting question. It is a bit different than I want to say what an artist would normally do. And the reason I say that is because there are the jobs that you can do within production are kind of spread out in an array. I guess that's not too dissimilar from art, but if I wanted to be an artist, I can easily go to some type of art school, art college. From there, I can go to some level of intern program, or I can find a studio that's doing some program and follow that until maybe a studio picks me up and gives me a chance to test and do some of that work. I do a good enough job there, well, they might just take me on or refer my work to somebody else. You know, you get a good portfolio and you kind of shop that around. Production is not necessarily the same, and I wish there were better avenues for it. What I've noticed, at least from my experience, is the people that kind of make it in production have usually a varied past in terms of job description. They might have worked retail, they might have worked service jobs, usually some level of service job, and the best folks to recruit into production do some level of organization or secretary work, I think is a great kind of start. But when we deal with animation production, you are going to be wearing a lot of hats, usually on the lower end. And for those of you who aren't familiar, production assistant or PA tends to be kind of the lowest ring on the totem pole. And you tend to be someone who will wear a lot of hats and a jack of all trades. So being the type of person, and personality will take you very far in this, being the type of person who's able to switch from task to task and to learn very many different things will kind of put you on that path. Now, once again, taking it back, I veered off already. What kind of is that path? And before I tell you a little bit more about that, it seems like I got a hot, saucy idea coming on already. What do you think about this, Mike? Donkey Kong wants to cross the street. In terms of a prompt right now, I know it's relatively simple, but when it comes to games, Donkey Kong, and speaking of, you know, the whole new Mario movie coming out, I'm going to want your opinion about that later on, is going to be super awesome. I think it's on the forefront of everybody's mind. So something game related. Mario's a big franchise. I like the idea. What do you think?
I think it's great.
Before we go with that, though, I got another one coming into Elephant Saves a Woman in Circus. So already a couple of different ideas. I wouldn't be surprised if we could even blend the two. We got a Donkey Kong, we got a monkey, we got an elephant, we got an animal. I mean,
Donkey Kong is a copyrighted character, so that might be a little bit difficult, although it would be kind of fun. Maybe if it were like Schmonkey Kong, we could do it. But
yeah, I mean, some version.
So we have
idea.
Elephant saves person at the circus.
And Donkey Kong wants to cross the street, so maybe on some level he's trying to get across the street to the circus to be a part of it. So maybe some way we can combine those two deals.
How about we do this? We do circus. Something's going on. Elephant sees person in trouble, and we need Donkey Kong to get there to save the day.
Even better. See, that's why they pay you the big bucks. I get it.
How about we take those things and we'll just smash them together forcefully?
That's exactly what we want to do here.
Hopefully, we can get a diamond out of that. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, explain to me the beginning of the process. I promise I'll finish my answer later, but I want to see where you're going to start with this.
We need, first of all, an establishing shot. We need to know where we are. So we can either go to the interior of the tent or something like that, a circus tent, or a little bit. So I think we should start maybe something with a little bit more standard. Let's set the stage. We'll put like a roadside circus, and we'll start to, rough in the grounds here. And I'm just going to do this with a big, pencil. You got, the sideshow tents over here and the big main tent.
And once again, starting like this, you're going very broad just to be able to give ourselves something to work with, and we'll kind of refine it. Just like, all right,
yeah, give it, and then maybe put like some of the trailers and things that they have on the side here. Maybe like a couple of the sideshow tents and a ticket booth here or something like that, right?
I see hot sauce.
It's been a long time since I've been to a circus.
I feel like they've evolved over time. Now you get the Cirque du Soleil shows, and the most you get is kind of the big top, and then beyond that, everything's so modern. If you haven't seen one in a long time, still very cool to see. I would recommend it. Hot Sauce says Donkey Kong plus large donkey, and I feel like with this circus theme, I have a feeling we can probably. Well, we don't want to muddle up with too many characters, as Michael probably tell you. The more characters in the scene, the longer it takes to get to. But I wouldn't be surprised if we can toss a donkey in there somehow, also.
What if Donkey Kong just was a donkey and not actually a monkey?
The donkey named Kong. I think that's going to get us around the copyright. I love that. Pasha Post says, for the character veterinarian for cyber pets, the setting, internet virtual space conflict, digital pet dragon got a virus. All right. A mouthful there. So once again, character was a veterinarian for cyber pets, and the setting is an internet virtual space. Our conflict, digital pet dragon got a virus. So a lot going on with that one. I feel like we have a direction going so far, but is there any way we can maybe implement some of those elements further down the line too?
Maybe there's possible. Pasha is a long time viewer and a friend.
Hey, awesome. Well, Pasha, we'll see if we can't. I'll keep reminding Mike as we get further down the line, and we'll see if we can't toss in some of those elements that you have going on there.
Okay, so we will have like this little simplified ticket booth. We got to speed things up because there's only so much time we have on this stream. Okay, sideshow tents. Let's get that going on. This is where like the sword swallower and the bearded lady and all those, sort of things, like the people with all the amazing like triple, quadruple joints and stuff that they have.
Yeah, for someone who hasn't been to a circus,
they still even do that. I know that's kind of like a 1910, 1920s sort of thing.
I think the world's gotten a lot more woke for good reasons. So I think a lot of like the old school, think of an Elephant Man freak show sort of thing. I don't think they have those types of exhibits anymore. A bearded lady, I don't think is as popular as you might expect it to be. The strong woman, or maybe like the oversized person, the extra obese type of thing. Those type of freak show sideshows. I mean, there used to be a place in Venice that had a bit of that. I have not been there I'm talking about Venice Beach in Los Angeles, California, for those folks who
Right.
aren't on the West Coast, had a freak show sideshow deal that was popular for a long time, but I have not been there in some years to see if that's something that still happens. But I think they go more extreme. So you're going to get someone who's swallowing multiple swords while spinning fire. And you're going to get the gymnast who can bend over backwards and shoot an arrow bullseye at a target with her feet. I think that's more of where circuses are leaning nowadays.
That's pretty incredible. Just to ride a horse and shoot a bow and arrow at the same time is a feat.
Very, very difficult. So I'm going to want to see your donkey later on, bent over backwards, shooting arrows at some type of target while saving this.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get there. See if we can get there. All right, so we got and again, for those of you who are new to this stream, these are like rough drawings. We're not making anything perfect. We're just making it happen. Okay, so we've got a circus, got a down shot of this circus, and I think what we need now is a new shot. So going into the circus proper, what do you say we put up like a big pillar or something here, and then we'll put another big pillar. Actually, if we go back, we should make this a two-pole tent like they do.
I like your idea. We're going to want the space on the interior.
Yeah, so we need to make it look like it's consistent. So we'll
unless we have a TARDIS situation where it's bigger on the inside than it's on the outside.
Yeah, that gets into, again, copyright issues. Okay, there we go. That's better. All right, so now we can have this big pole here, and we can have another one here. Let's make this thinner so we can so it looks a little bit a little bit farther away. And I'm just going to flop this vertically so we can get the feeling that we're on a big down shot, right?
Yeah, you were. If I can ask a question while you're still doing this quickly, you blocked in that kind of that exterior establishing shot very quickly, but perspective is something that you have to take into account. And it seems like without missing a beat, you were able to get exactly what we wanted out of a perspective down shot, while still getting all of the elements that we're going to potentially see in the story. As you mentioned, the circus, the side tent where the sword swallowers are going to be, and so on and so forth. So is that something, you did it very fast on the fly. Is that something that board artists should always kind of be aware of?
I think as a board artist, that's kind of your job, to be able to come up with ideas quickly, and it always depends on who you're working for a lot of the time. But in my opinion, that's just a good skill to cultivate, is being able to just come up with ideas on the fly and be able to pitch those in short order.
I see. As someone who's less artistically inclined, who hasn't had necessarily the same background, as I mentioned, production stuff, I didn't necessarily have to draw a whole lot. I did do a bit of that, but I didn't have to draw a whole lot when it came to my own schooling and education. Is that level of perspective and learning how to draw in perspective something that's taught? And if it's not, how could a storyboard artist learn to do it as quickly and as fluently as you seem to be doing it? Fluidly, I guess, would be.
Sometimes they do. Just depends on the school, really. I feel like animation at its core is very much a mentorship, master and apprentice type relationship. And so, depending on who you have as your mentor or whatnot, I think that is going to determine a lot for you. But perspective, I think, is just a matter of practice. Learning the fundamental principles and then applying those. I mean, in Storyboard Pro here, we have perspective guides that can help you with stuff. But I think a lot of it just boils down to how good of a student are you when you are training your eye? Like, can you go to like a higher space, like say you're like a tourist on the Empire State Building or something like that? Can you look at that and analyze it and be like, well, how would I draw this?
Would such things change depending on the style of a show, or are there more hardline rules that you can kind of implement to make sure that you have consistency as you might jump from studio to studio or show to show, which tends to be kind of the career trajectory of any storyboard artist?
Sorry, repeat that, please.
Yeah, would the skills and the things that you're talking about change from style to style, show to show? So are you consistently kind of having to relearn? You mentioned kind of a mentorship thing, learn under somebody new to kind of grasp that level of perspective and just overall background work, or are there some hardline rules that are in place that you can kind of follow that are consistent?
I think that you don't necessarily have to have just one mentor. You can have a lot of different people that influence you over time. And you should, because the difference in all of that stuff is really going to make a lot of, versatility. It's going to give you a lot of versatility that you wouldn't have normally had. And I think that's awesome. Like, you should be able to adapt, especially, because I come from an animation background. And so with an animation background, you kind of have to be a chameleon of style quite a bit. And, I think that really helps, like, when you're trying to adapt to a new show. Like right now, I'm adapting to a show that I just barely started on. It is similar to other shows that I've worked on, but not entirely. It's each show has its own sort of thing and its own limitations and its own style that they're going for. And I think that is sort of like a process of learning about that stuff too. But you learn something new from each show that you work on, and that should be something that you're always looking for. What can I bring to the show, first of all, and what am
can you
I
take
gonna
away,
get out
maybe?
of the show
Yeah,
as an artist? Okay, so one thing that we're going to do here, and this is an old trick that they used to do on a lot of Warner shorts, and I think they did it in Dumbo to a certain degree, is just kind of pepper the audience in.
I've seen this technique used often.
Yeah, with just like various little colored dots,
And as someone who comes from the production end of things, crowd shots are one of the most feared and hated things that artists have to deal with. So if you can get away with doing any level of audience or mass of people with very simple effects or artistic styles and strokes, it's probably preferred from the artist. And depending on how good you make it look, it's never a big deal otherwise. Really quick, because I know we're getting more into the story elements, I have another question or proposition from Sam Etfer. I hope I'm saying that right. Elephant trainer wants to kill women, quote unquote gymnasts. So maybe a gymnast is part of the circus act using elephant. So elephant trainer wants to kill woman using elephant. Interesting. Maybe we can include
dark,
that. I know. Yeah, definitely so. But at the same time, who's to say that dark things don't happen in a circus too? Maybe there's a way. And if there is any way to kind of make it a little bit more kid friendly, family friendly, maybe that's something we head with.
Well, I mean, that's how Batman got Robin, right? It was a circus chicanery that went bad.
Which Robin? He's had so many at this point. But no, I hear what you're saying. That is right.
Oh, the first one. Dick Grayson.
Yeah, you're right. I believe
Flying
he was
Graysons.
Yeah, it tends to be a good backstory for a lot of superheroes or even supervillains sometimes, is being in a circus or being some level of gymnast. A couple more coming in. I have something from Ivan Only One. Another character, we have an agent with a gun. And Sam, again, conflict is love triangle. So looks like we're getting a different array of a lot of different things going on. Really quick, I can recap for us some of the ideas that we've had thrown at us, Mike, but let me know what direction you're currently going in right now, what you're thinking of, and maybe we can start implementing some more of these things in as we go along.
Okay, one thing I'm gonna point out here that I was just able to copy and paste a lot of these things and be able to sort of easily populate this crowd just by having it on a separate layer from the background.
I did notice that, and all you had to do was kind of resize and re-angle as you after you copy and pasted that first initial deal. I've seen other techniques where artists will copy and paste and kind of spread it out to make that portion larger, then copy and paste that larger section that they've made to even copy and paste faster if they need to populate something bigger. So you can even expand
Yes.
on that same technique and really populate a larger audience. Imagine this circus tent was twice as big. That might be a faster way to pepper in all of those audience members as well.
All right, then we're going to have the 3 rings here that they have, and this like sort of track on the outside. Let's put that close. And
So
then
we're still, go for
let's put the elephant down here. We're going to have an elephant here, and I think we should put our lady trapeze artist or high wire artist on a different layer. And then we'll put the elephant down here. I think it should be one of those things where the elephant's kind of like up and like balancing on a ball or something.
Oh yeah, that's a circus classic for sure.
You know, where they're down on the ball, and then maybe like you know, the horses or whatever they're down here.
Or donkeys, right?
Donkeys. I think we'll stick with the Arabian horses, and then you know, maybe we'll branch out into donkeys eventually.
Works for me. Works for me.
Let's put some people down here doing their thing. Okay. All right. So we've got so far we've got this circus that we're going to, and you know, sometimes we put a little drift on these. So let's get out the camera. We're in the camera view right now, so we're going to see it directly. Go like this, and then since we're going in on the circus tent itself, we'll zoom in this way. So now we've got a little push in, and we do that pretty standard in a lot of stuff that we do. All right, so we've got this girl going along, and you know what? We're gonna shortcut this a little bit today, and we're gonna put a little layer motion on her, and we're gonna scoot her back here. And I'm not gonna deal with the pivot point or anything. Pivot point's gonna be down here. And let's put that little keyframe out to the front. We can do that by pushing home or just moving the keyframe over. I'm gonna push end and put her back into the middle here. So now we've got this sort of thing. And when we get to this middle point, I'm just gonna put her down, and we're gonna create an automatic keyframe. So that it looks like she's riding along this wire.
Simple but effective.
Do not discount the awesomeness of layer motion. All right, so let's do a new shot. And I think we need to get some of that intrigue we were talking about. Now we're just going to go strictly thumbnail. We've done some of the prettier drawings, even though those aren't super pretty drawings. I think maybe we do this, which is kind of like, you know, where things open for all of the animals and stuff to come through. And then we'll do the high wire right here. Coming through there, and then we'll see some of the background, and then I'm going to get a lighter pen or lighter color and have like the audience and all that stuff here, and then the circus tent, that, and we're not going to pepper in people. We're just going to assume that, you know, they're there.
But we could a quick technique. We could always copy and paste from the previous and readjust if we wanted to do something like that. We dealt with something that wasn't too detailed before, so if we wanted to give ourselves or take the extra time to do something like that, that is still a simple solution, I would think, if I was boarding in your shoes right now. But still,
absolutely, Chris.
A couple more. I'm sorry. Go for it.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say we got Sam switching up some of his prompts over here. He's saying the folks should be having an audition, elephant trainer with the gymnast, and the audition includes elephant on 2 legs. So maybe we can incorporate something similar to that. We already had kind of the elephant in the center and kind of that second establishing shot of our big top, down shot of the big top. So just to kind of backtrack some of the ideas that we're working with, and I want to get an idea how you want to kind of implement them in Mike. So
we can't implement everything. You know, we try as much as possible, but I don't think we're going to be able to implement everything.
I guess the question I should be asking you then is, what direction do you want to start taking things?
You know, I think what we're going to do is we're going to add in a couple of the suggestions from Sam. I think we're going to have that person who's going to put this young lady in jeopardy.
I like that. I definitely like that from the original. So once again, we had Sam asking, elephant saves woman in circus. And then later on asking, say they have an audition, elephant trainer and gymnast, of course, elephant on two legs. So using that pose, yeah, you read my mind. I was going to say kind of using that pose and kind of having them work together there is wonderfully solid.
Yeah, so we'll have, we'll put the elephant a little bit smaller so he looks like he's further in the distance. And put the ball here. You know, classic Dumbo stuff. Switch layers. And then we'll have the cyclist up here. We'll make her really small, and she'll be up here on her unicycle, going. And we are going to copy that, or duplicate that frame, and then we're going to have somebody come in over here.
Now, already I'm starting to see we're adding in quite a few characters into this. And as I mentioned before, I feel like the more characters we start to add into a scene or sequence, the more complicated things get, the more drawings, the panels that you have to make, and ultimately the more work that you're going to have to do. What are some, aside from what we saw earlier, where we kind of peppered in just some audience members and just some simple strokes, some simple drawings were able to create that effect? Any other tips that you have to kind of cut corners when it comes to that level of boarding? How do we make more characters, make it seem like there's more characters, or make it seem like there's more going on? Any of your go-to techniques?
You know, sometimes you just have to. I think there's a lot to say in like the gesture drawing of things. Like if you can do an effective gesture drawing with as little lines as possible and still make it read, I think that's really what you're looking at here.
I see what you're saying. In my experience, getting good gesture drawings comes from doing things like why am I blanking on the name? Model
like,
when you're
fit live figure drawing.
Live figure drawing. Would that be a good recommendation for people who want to get really good at quick gesturing?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think whatever you can do to up your game as far as drawing skill goes, that is going to help you. All right, let's switch views here. Let's do. Actually, you know, before we do that, let's give this guy like a quick, you know, look around. Like,
oh, we gotta make him shady, right?
Yeah,
definitely suspect. And looking in, another one from Sam, by trainer signal with a whip. He stands on all fours. So yeah, maybe when we get the trainer in there, we can toss in, and we'll see where Mike's at with that as it comes in. Pasha also says maybe a small spider can save her during the fall. I know we're kind of going with an animal theme already, where we're trying to include a lot going on, and it is a circus. But maybe something with the spider saving the fall with the web. We'll see where that goes. Ooh, I like the hand in the coat pocket.
All right.
Yeah, definitely looking like a shady character. And all it takes, it looks like, is an eyebrow and some weird arm movements. And that was enough to make him look sinister. I like that.
All right. And then, you know, we can kind of go back to and use some of these assets here. So sometimes you can just go back to things and, you know, use them.
Yeah, I've noticed that if just like we did earlier, once again, I might keep referencing this, just copying and pasting the audience. If we take just a portion of an image or of a panel, and the least amount of drawing you have to do, the better it becomes, right? Or the less work that you have to do, the more it's your friend. So copying and pasting just that head motion there, it's already matching what we had before, so the eye can track it a little bit better.
Yeah.
I see where you're going with it.
And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Vector drawing is the best. I really, really, really enjoy being able to.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan also, although I'm coming into animation at a time where this is becoming more and more of the standard. I feel like hand drawing animation is wonderful and has a lot of special aesthetic to it. Something that it's hard to replicate in some instances, but this makes workflow so easy. To speak from it from a production angle, dealing with storyboard files coming back in and out, or even something that I've had to do more recently, breaking up my job to just the storyboard portion of production coordinating. If I have to adjust panels, if I have to make quick fixes between editorial and an artist, and I can just get in there and physically move a piece of a drawing without ever having to touch a stylus to a tablet, it's huge because I save the artist's work. And in a lot of ways, anytime that we can reduce the amount of time an artist has to draw for production, that's amazing. So I've always thought that production, the idea is you make it easier for everybody else, right? You're trying to make, in fact, I think that was a piece of advice that you gave me once was, you're making the job easier for the next person.
Yeah. That's if you do your job well on the first time, you're paying it forward, really. And I think that's a huge thing to do for somebody else, especially in an environment that can be really, fast paced and needing a lot of attention a lot of time.
I agree. All
right. And then we'll just put a couple of stairs right here. And he's down in this area, and we'll just have him flip up that phone and cause some trouble.
I like it. I like we got an antagonist kind of out of nowhere, and quickly you made him a villain with minimal effort. I feel like.
All right, flipped up the phone with his thumb. He's gonna go old school with a flip phone because burners, right?
It's exactly right. I think, and definitely a flip phone is more sinister. Although I think a beeper is probably the most sketchy thing to have on somebody.
Yeah, because it wasn't that like the universal sign that I'm a drug dealer or a doctor.
Back in the day, that was it. You're either a doctor or a drug dealer. There was no in between, is the idea. But flip phone is the next deal there.
Yeah, so let's actually give him some feet, huh?
And I notice, I'll let you draw if it becomes too much to answer this question, but we're doing a lot of downshot angles, and something that I don't understand as not having a storyboard or layout background, how much does the angle of a shot affect the emotion or the tone that you're trying to emit? How should a storyboard artist, or what should they know about angling and their shots to try and evoke something specific?
Well, you should know your cinematography. I think that's the biggest thing. Cinematography is kind of the name of the game when you're boarding, because I feel like storyboarding is a multifaceted skill, right? Because you're sort of like the first director that hits something, right? So you've got script writers who kind of generate a lot of the story, unless you're doing your own thing, in which case you're generating it yourself. But you're kind of like the first visual interpretation of that story. And so you're having to come up with the angles and everything yourself. And so you have to be able to be an actor, a cinematographer, director, and like sort of like a plethora, a set designer, like all these things all in one. And so knowing how to get your performance in there and being able to wear all those hats as a board artist is kind of a daunting task, but it's not impossible, obviously.
Yeah, and knowing your background in history, and we can go dive into that. I know that's something that we kind of skipped over in the beginning. How specifically, because people will be going to different schools, people will be going to different mentors, as we talked about, if they're moving from project to project, which is common for storyboard artists in the industry. How did you specifically learn that level of cinematography? How are you implementing it And how did you use that to implement in the boards that you're doing? And sorry if my stomach keeps rumbling. I'm realizing it's lunchtime, man. Oh my god.
I didn't hear your stomach rumbling.
Oh no!
I don't think anybody would have known had you not pointed it out.
Well, the longer we go on, the louder it's going to get. So you will hear it eventually.
Okay. So let's do this. We'll put a little light on it and beep, and then you know what? I think we might need let's see, have this guy. Nobody knows he's there. Beep, and then can we go back to a previous shot? No,
I do like the angle where we have the high wire, but not good enough, huh?
Yeah, I think we need to just go to a shot that is like, oops, that's not the right brush. The marker brush back out. We need to make that a little bit bigger here and have that pole come through. And then let's get a nice, that big chunky cable right there. And then get some of this darker.
I see. I got another one from Sam. According to audition, woman lays under elephant's legs. Oh man, you're really trying to put her in precarious situations, Sam. I don't know what you got against this elephant trainer, but once we see what this nefarious man's doing, maybe that'll be the deal. Is she goes to go under the elephant's legs, and right at that moment is when this deal is going down. We'll see how Mike and I decide to implement some of this good stuff.
All right. So I think that right now we should have this there, and in the background here we'll just do a very light indication that the tent's there, right? Because we always have to maintain that we know where we are at all times.
Of course, and simple by just a couple of lines, right? That was enough. We've established it in previous shots already. We're inside of a tent. Simple lines. We can just kind of pull that in here too, and save yourself the extra effort, essentially.
Yeah, save yourself a lot of hassle. All right, and let's get we copied that panel, and now we're gonna have the same sort of corresponding light from the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go from nothing to activated, and then let's see if we can go to
something that I've noticed is just simple lighting touches like that. When you're trying to, when you're in edits between, these rough stages and cleans and getting to a finished animatic product, and you're trying to convey the action to a showrunner or to somebody who might not be super familiar with animation. Just that little bit of color coding, green on the phone to green on this box that's going to be activating it, is enough to visually represent what's going on here. So not missing out on those tiny details where you don't have to do a lot. You get in Storyboard Pro, it's not difficult to change a color on a particular layer, a particular box like that, and then boom, all of a sudden it reads visually really
well
clean.
It's the relation, I think, really. It's the relation between the two things. Like, we are people, just generally, that we're looking for relation and patterns in pretty much everything, right? Like, even in our daily lives, we're looking for patterns. We're looking for.
You're gonna get into numerology on me, Mike?
No, I'm not getting super deep in it, but like, we're always looking for patterns, whether it be visually or whatever. Like, we see them everywhere, right?
Agreed.
And that's kind of the thing that kind of makes us who we are as people, is this ability to see things and see patterns in places that animals generally don't pick up, right? So when we see two colors, we relate them to one another. Like, those things are connected because they have the same color, right? Like, the green to the green, we understand that this device signals that device, and then the green light, that is a connection that they're making with one another. So we have, and that's just an easy visual way to correspond to that thing. Like, you know, when we watch movies, I think about when you're watching, you've had time for any spoilers. If you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, then tough luck. But like, for instance, the Scarlet Witch, right? She's got this red magic that's everywhere, and so even when she's not on screen, if you see red magic, you know who's responsible for it, right? Because that's the color coordination that goes with her. And so, like, even when you've got Thanos, he's straining underneath this magic that's crushing him, and he's all covered in red. We've set that up as her magic previously, and so we know, you know, who's causing it.
You know what? I feel like you answered my question before when I asked about cinematography and kind of where that comes from. Pattern recognition, right? You're recognizing some of the and sometimes it's as simple as going from a larger shot, kind of going into a close-up or a close-up on somebody's face. We recognize that. We've seen it in so many movies as being something dramatic, right? That this is something that we want to pull our focus into, but it goes deeper than that. And I don't mean to take this simple concept of just one green blinking light and take us down the rabbit hole, but different colors, right? We tend to associate things like purple with nobility. So in a lot of movies, you'll see purple and gold being worn on kings and queens, and then you start seeing people storyboard, and they might adorn certain noble characters in those same colors. So, which
you know,
I guess, go for it.
One thing really quick. I think that we need to put her in a precarious situation, but we can't like take down this whole tower. So I think what we need to do here is I am going to go into this thumbnails layer, and I'm going to hold down Control and Shift and then select the whole thing so I can select multiple things at once. And then I'm going to shrink that down, and I'm going to put the bomb closer here to the actual pole. So, boop, and then move this over. Select
Same
that all.
technique. Oh yeah.
Over.
We were talking quick techniques earlier, and this is perfect to see how we're grasping multiple panels and taking just those panels from shifting it over just a little bit, because all of a sudden you have a great idea, and this is going to work better for our composition and the storytelling overall. So cheating or these shortcuts, I don't want to say cheating, it's more like shortcuts. Really important for boarding is what I'm getting out of the way you're doing this.
Working efficiently. Working efficiently is the name of the game, right?
Much better way to put it. Oh yeah.
Shortcuts, tricks, pro tips, whatever. I'm actually in the process of working on some storyboard pro tips for Toon, Boom, and Wacom, and how you can work on some of that between both your hardware and software. So we've got activate, move, and I think now we need to go to new shot.
All right.
And have like the opposite view of this initial shot here. Let's see. Let's go to this brush. Let's go back to our chunky marker here, and then we'll have this here and that there.
I see you're setting kind of the big markers first, and then you fill in the rest from there. Perspective-wise, please.
Yeah, so you just kind of set out, your initial blocking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whoops, that's the wrong button. I need the draw behind button.
I have Toon Kundu saying, and I apologize if I butcher the name, truly you guys are inspiring. I'm also learning to storyboard fast and dynamic angles. You make it look so easy and helpful. Mike is as a mastermind at this, and once again, I think just kind of heed his words of wisdom here. A lot of these efficient shortcuts that he's doing is stuff that goes a long way. And once again, you're trying to visually represent something and communicate this to people who might not be as artistically oriented. You need approval from higher ups and that sort of deal, or you just have to get a whole lot of work done. If you've storyboarded anything on your own, the amount of work that goes into it can be monumental at times. sometimes. Finding ways to give yourself shortcuts to work efficiently it's not necessarily going to take away from the overall tone and feel and impact that a scene might have. So if he's not giving us too much detail in these poles or even in the background of the tent, just us visually being able to see it and know what it is at a glance, sometimes that's better than getting extra detailed with it anyway, because then our eyes aren't focusing on what we really want the story to convey anyway.
Right. And then, you have to realize when you're boarding, a lot of your drawings are just going to be disposable. So, you could have a great looking drawing that's not right for a scene. And then what's the point of that great looking drawing at that point?
Yeah,
there is none.
Ooh,
it's pointless.
That's something I don't know if I've ever talked to you about, or maybe not at length. So maybe you can just speak on it briefly, because I know we're moving fast. We still probably got, 45 minutes or so before we get to the point. But dealing with a good chunk of your work, because this is common for storyboard artists, where they will board out a scene or a sequence or even a couple sequences. Then there's rewrites or there's changes, and all of that work gets thrown out, and they kind of have to start over or they have to rebuild something. I'm sorry, I'll get to my question, I promise. But in my personal experience, a lot of artists will put a lot of heart and soul, storyboarders, a lot of heart and soul into a particular sequence or a couple of panels, and then that gets thrown out. What advice would you give storyboard artists to getting over that feeling of having lost something that they invested a lot of work into, or had a lot of emotional investment, because, hey, this is how they saw that particular scene playing out in their head, and now it's gone? What can you tell those artists to be able to kind of get over that or move through that?
I would say buck up, Buttercup. It's going to happen a lot. It's just
very blunt is the idea.
It's not personal. It's not personal. And, at the end of the day, I mean, if you're working for someone else, it's not really your story to tell. It's theirs.
Interesting.
And so, I feel like, as a board artist, you need to be flexible and you need to be able to take direction too. So if it's not right, okay. There was a story I heard of Joe Ranft, the great Pixar artist, right? That guy was a legend before his untimely death. There was a story of him when they were working on the first Toy Story, and dude had spent weeks working on a sequence, right? And got to the pitch, and the executives were like, "Nope, we want none of this. It's not right for the story." But Joe had every right to go back to his desk sulking. But he just grabbed a pen and paper and it's like, all right, then what is it? Let's do it. And they boarded out the entire thing in that meeting. So with just putting it on the board. So that sort of frame of mind is kind of what I like to subscribe to, is just if it's not right, then it's not right. And, it's nothing personal most of the time. I mean, it can be if you're working with people that are kind of not great to work with in the first place. But I think it's one of those things where you have to realize that a lot of times it's not personal. It's just that the needs of the story are going to trump your personal feelings.
Yeah.
And that's just something that you learn with in time. Even if you put your heart and soul into a board, that's awesome. You have more to give. That's not going to be the only board you ever do, or the only thing that you'll ever love, of your work. It just won't be. And
that's inspiring. It's inspiring. I don't feel like I hear enough people come at it, approach it with that angle. And you said something earlier that I was kind of latching onto, where it's not your story. And I feel like as artists, as artistic people, or just creatives in general, even when you're working on something that isn't your initial idea, when you pour yourself into it, when you pour time into anything, it becomes a piece of you, right? Or there's a piece of you that gets stuck with it. But at the end of the day, it's not yours. And if you can embody that, then I think it's a lot easier to get over a lot of those feelings, or getting yourself through those situations. But it's something that I don't see once again, dealing with artists and creative perspectives, these are people that tend to be more introverted and not able to process kind of those emotions or see it from that way because they are so passionate about wanting to include so much of themselves in anything they produce. Right. But separating, learning how to separate, because I do feel like it has to be a learned skill after some time, learning how to separate yourself from the thing that you're producing as almost like in relation to separating, say, a musical artist from the bad things that they do, right? Or any celebrity from, say, the bad things that they do. That's got to be tough. It's not something that they teach in school, I can't imagine, right?
Again, it all depends on who you're learning from, because some people know that lesson very well and will impart it to your students. Like, I
need to meet more of those folks in production.
There's some things you just can't be precious with. I mean, and I kind of feel like we need like, Mufasa voice or something like that, in that part of the Lion King when he says, Simba, you are more than what you have become. I feel like we just need a Mufasa that's saying you are more than one storyboard, and that's kind of a philosophy that I think we really need to think about when we're putting a lot of personal stuff into our storyboard. Like, that's great if you're putting in a lot of stuff that's great acting or fantastic staging. That's great. There are other people that have had that very same thing and have gone through that very same thing and came out the other side just fine, and you will too. Like, it's not something that you should fret about. There's
go for it. Yeah, I was going to say it's great advice so far. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta let it go and let it ride. And sometimes at the end of the day, when you see the final thing, you'd be like, yeah, all right, that was the right call.
The acceptance, right? So you're saying you go through the full what is it? The
stages of grief.
Stages of grief. Thank you. You read my mind there. The full on 5 cycles there. Yeah. Walk me through what you've been doing, because we've been chatting and kind of taking it off radar here. So it looks like you have an angle here now where bombs exploded. This top portion of the pole and high rise is coming down. We got to create this precarious situation for our woman trainer who may or may not be under this elephant legs.
I think we're going to have a more precarious situation for not necessarily the elephant trainer, but this girl on the high wire.
Ooh,
maybe the elephant trainer as well.
Maybe a bit of both, but
maybe a little bit of both.
Well, once again, as I mentioned earlier, too many characters can muddy up a thing. So, we'll see time-wise. It might be better to decide on one or the other, so we get a more cohesive end game.
I think so too. When you got too many objects in play, you can really muddy the waters really bad.
All right. Well, I'm all
we don't
for
necessarily want to do that. So
I'm all for seeing how we're going to get this woman out of this precarious situation on the high wire, or person. I don't know if we've decided gender or not.
I think there's a lady on top of the high wire here.
Was our lady? All righty.
So, we're going to mimic our producer for here. She had princess hair today, and so we're going to give our person Janelle's hairstyle.
I was going to say princess hair. You're going to have to describe to me princess hair. That's not, I haven't heard of it described that way before. Because my first thought is tiara, right? That's the.
Well, she's just got a really like a cool bun thing happening, right? When they go to the ball, they always have like the big bun or something on top of it. It's like an updo. I think that's what you call it, right? An updo.
Something to that effect, but we're not talking like Snooki, New Jersey, Jersey Shore type of up bun, right? Okay, good. But nothing that dramatic. We want a high bun, but we don't want it. We don't want a circus high bun. Don't want it clown style.
So let's get in here too, and we'll put a little tone on top of this with our nice marker brush, so we see like part of this underneath, but not all of it.
Once again, simple touches for simple effects that feel powerful overall. Something that I noticed there,
and then
something I noticed in the panel at the bottom right there, you have our villain kind of hanging off.
Yeah, there he is, hanging out.
A little bit of silhouette. If your eyes are tracking it properly, you'll catch that guy, and I like that.
And then we need a couple more things here in the scene. I'm going to put our person here. And then we're going to put elephant. Not drawing him that way. White's not going to show up. We need darker thing. The ball.
I see, looking good.
And then we'll put the elephant. We'll put the elephant trainer down here. And
it's still maintaining all the elements that we had from that second panel. Even it's cool.
Horses.
Like no information is lost, you know.
And then horses.
But yeah, to that previous point, Mike, it's
going to
one of those things that I don't hear talked about, and I'm glad we kind of glossed over that. I realize now we're going very far off from that initial theme of games and whatnot. But something I do want to ask, because it has you had mentioned when we were speaking earlier that your first game system you ever played was Atari. How late am I dating you, if that's the case?
Well, okay, so I was like 4 at the time, and we were on like a family vacation type thing, and we stopped in on our way to like my mom's cousin's house, I think. And this was in the early 80s. And in their basement, they had an Atari 2600. And that was the first game station game system I ever played on, outside of like, you know, one of those little sit down Mrs. Pac-Man things at a Pizza Hut or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's another thing we can show. Sometimes it's easier to just when you're flipping something, or when you need the same sort of thing instead of drawing it over again. Sometimes you can just flip it. I don't think in this case it's going to work as well, but sometimes you can just flip a line and have that work for you.
Ah, it's good to note. That's not a technique I've seen before.
All right. Okay, so boom, and then it starts to fall, and then we need to have a new shot, and I think we can do down here for the elephant, and the elephant trainer is down here. So you need to make this kind of an upshot. So we'll put this eye. One thing you can do to sort of make things look a little bit more upshotty is, put the eye forward farther. You just got to make everything, you got to make everything be pointing up in that direction. So like, when we have eyes here in a normal human, right? Hi, I'm a normal human. Look at me. Like if you want to make it look like that normal human's looking away from you, you put the eye here, right? I'm still a normal human. Look at me,
I see what you're saying. And then with the same for a down shot,
can be kind of tricky though, because you have to deal with, again, perspective of character. Mm-hmm. So another way to do that, and I'm just gonna do another trick here. I'm gonna use we're gonna do a little bit of underdrawing here for this to make it really look good. I'm going to do this. So we have elephant head, elephant body, elephant tail. And then we have
Mike, you still have me here? I'm making sure I don't have any. Okay, wonderful. Just making sure I don't have any internet trouble. Seeing what you're doing here.
I think that was on my end.
This is like classic animation or drawing technique, right? Just kind of blocking it, starting with big shapes and then kind of working yourself in.
Yeah. Then we'll put that big floppy ear here, and then we'll have, a little bit of elephant anatomy here, as much as we can incorporate, and then we'll have, that there.
Something tells me that as someone who has had to direct folks working under him, other board artists, having to potentially deal with them boarding out difficult situations and upshots and down angles, have you ever had to let them know, hey, go back to the basics, do something like this in order to get the angle that you're looking for?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's happened before. I mean, you know, a lot of people that I've worked with, I've been really fortunate to work with a lot of really awesome people. So like, you know, when they bring stuff to the table, it's usually like pretty fantastic. So,
well, kind of expanding on that, as once again, as someone who has had to manage teams before in your past, what is the difference between boarding for yourself and then having to lead a team of a couple board artists in order to get a similar or consistent result? What do you think are the biggest differences in terms of mindset, workflow, however you want to interpret that?
I think that you have to be able to trust your team and know how to delegate. If you're going to be a leader of any kind, you have to know when you need to do it yourself and when you can't do it yourself. You have to rely on your team, and you have to trust your team that they're going to deliver for you. I've always tried, whenever I run a crew, I always try to make sure that all of my people feel like they're contributing, first of all, in a meaningful way. And second of all, that, you know, I want them to do a good job for themselves and for me, because they want to, right?
I'm a big fan of that also.
I want them to come through for me because they want to come through for me, not because they're afraid of me or they're afraid that I'm going to get them in trouble or, you know, stuff like that, that I think that people just don't want to deal with. You know, I don't like it when people that I work with have that feeling of dread every time they, you know, when I call them in to, you know, take a meeting or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And probably know that from experience. You don't like feeling that either, right? Or didn't like feeling that either back in the day.
Of course not. I don't think anybody does.
Yeah.
So like having that as a baseline, I think I always like to run a crew based on the idea of, you know, a mutual respect that everyone on the team fosters.
Mm-hmm. If a board artist gets to the position where they want to start either move laterally or move up that ladder in a similar kind of trajectory that you've had, what can they start looking out for? What are some skills that they can start cultivating? I feel like you've touched on a few already, so that they can start putting themselves in those positions. The reason I ask this question is because I feel like there's similar pools that happen in production where you get to a certain level and it's difficult to make the jump to the next place. So what kind of advice would you give any board artists who don't necessarily see themselves as a board artist from now to the end of their careers?
You just have to look for opportunities, and sometimes you just have to wait for that opportunity to happen. Or you go out and you make the opportunity for yourself happen with, you know, making your own films and getting them out there. You know, I think one other thing that is big is, getting on first season shows.
If you're on, tip I have not heard before.
So the best chance that you have of directing is either, you know, going to a studio and being there for years and years, and working your way up the food chain, so to speak, or climbing the corporate ladder or whatever you want to call it. Like I had a couple of friends that I started out with in school, who just, you know, worked on some major motion pictures as head of story, and the director, who's actually the director, has directed a few films now. They've just been with the same company ever since school ended. And that was in 2006. So like they just have been there and been part of that process for so long that they've worked their way up and proved themselves, right? If you're looking for something that's a little bit less, I've spent my whole career at one studio, the only real path is to get on a first season show and, you know,
Yeah, no, I feel like I've heard folks say before, if you really want more opportunities, then you have to kind of look elsewhere. And not only will it broaden your horizon and skill sets by learning different systems and that whole deal, but you said specifically a first season show. And I think that's the important piece of advice that I had not heard before is you want to get something that's a little bit more brand new. And I'm assuming there's a bit more kind of room to grow there. There's maybe certain things that aren't established or maybe more space to prove kind of your salt type of deal. Is that what I'm getting from the idea of a first season show?
Well, there's just the field is open. The field is a little bit more open. I mean, a lot of times if you've got a showrunner with a first season show, right, they're gonna want people that they absolutely trust, and so sometimes those will be like really good friends or they're partners in crime, as it were. But sometimes those people have to go elsewhere and do other things. Like when I was working on DuckTales, there was a director who left to go work with another friend, and he left the spot open. And so they picked somebody to fill that spot who they really trusted, who had done great work for them and delivered things on time and, had a really good work ethic going on. All right. So, but there's one problem with this composition here that I want to point out is that the elephant here is looking with an eye line going this way, right? When the action is supposed to be happening right there.
Ooh, how do we remedy?
So either we can do a couple different things. We can take this here and bring it down a bit more, which kind of destroys a little bit of the composition of our guy here. But we can do this and make this guy just that much bigger. But no, that doesn't work. Okay, so the other solution is to grab this, bring it up, and I'm going to widen out the camera.
Oh, okay. And we were talking about quicker solutions previously. We don't want to have to redraw anything. If we already have the elements that we need, we can just reshuffle the positioning of them, resize them, or even just reposition the camera. It looks like there was multiple directions that we took, and combination of all those to get the simple result that to solve a minor problem.
And then another thing that we can do also to kind of focus that eye a little bit too is sometimes you can do a little vignetting. So actually, I'm going to grab all of that I just vignetted, put it on the layer that everything else is on, and then cut and paste over so I still have my lines, and that's great. So you can just keep that going on how it was, and then just fill in the parts that I need to make this work.
It's definitely more dramatic now.
Those are on a different layer too, so we're gonna have to try our best to match the color and all of that good stuff. So there's that, boom, and then we have our audience back here, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" We're gonna put our in trouble lady here.
Oh yeah, still missing her from the shot that we need.
And she's But
in terms of composition, it's always important. I know it mentioned it earlier, but just being able to have the eye track where the action's at, right? Having that be very clear, while still keeping the elements of the story that you need there, from the trainer to the explosion to, I guess we're looking towards the explosion, but having our high wire performer there.
Yeah, and we can also do a few things. We can use our lines in the background to sort of guide the eye to where we need them to look to.
Oh, that's not a solution I would have thought of off the top, but you're right. Just kind of guidelines to just point us in the right direction.
Yeah. All right. So
go for it.
So we've got this going on here. And I think we need to have also a little bit more of a falling here. So let's get this wire, and we're gonna dip it over a little bit.
All right. Looking at our time, we probably got a good 20 minutes or so before we close out towards the end of the show.
Okay.
So
So
just giving you an
better
idea of our
hurry
time
up
frame.
here. We got to hurry up here. Because we're running out of time.
It's that time that we're all familiar with, that crunch time. In the meantime, I do have a question. This is from King and
Yes.
Dev, and I hope once again I'm getting that right. What brush or pencil do you use for sketch, and what size?
I have as you can see, I have several different brushes, and I like creating my own brushes a lot of the time too, so I can get the exact effects that I'm looking for.
So if let's say they wanted to avoid the route of making their own brush, is there anyone from the standard palette that Storyboard Pro offers that you would recommend then?
Yeah, just a basic vector brush. I don't think you really need anything more fancy, unless you're trying to get a certain effect, or if you just like you really like that sort of what's it? You really like that textured look, like you miss drawing with a pencil, because this feels like a lot of the time drawing with a marker, which I'm kind of used to because we did draw with a lot of markers when we're on story teams and on paper. So that has, it's not too out of the range of possibility for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, to take it in the opposite direction, then what's the best way for them to create efficient brushes that they might be able to use down the line? Do you have a separate? Are you physically creating your brushes, or are you pulling them in from a separate plugin or anything like that?
There's not really any way to do it from a separate plugin, although you can import other people's brushes.
Yeah, I guess that's more so closer to what I'm asking. Well, we'll get there. In the meantime, it looks like this Highwire performer definitely seeing the other end of this. This is not fun. Yeah, finally our zoom in here. Very scary situation. If you didn't miss our princess do. I was was hoping I would see it.
Sorry, Janelle. We're gonna put you on the Highwire today, and give you one of those like floofy dress things.
Almost a Tinkerbell style.
Yeah.
Rocket style of dress here.
Right. So let's fix that leg so it doesn't look so weird. So we want, actually, what we're going to do is take this whole thing and move it up a little bit. Let me tilt it. So we want to get an angle that is like more of an extreme down angle. So sometimes we can just, fudge it a little bit and then fix things after the fact.
Yeah.
So like obviously that doesn't work anymore because of the difference in plane.
Well, just to kind of narrate what I saw you do there, just selecting the body and readjusting, tilting it further back so we get the perspective illusion that we're looking for, right? And
yeah.
I feel like the theme more of the day has been trying to find these fast, quick, efficient shortcuts to get us the end result without having to redraw as much. Right. And I really do think that's if you're going to be taking anything away from what Mike does when he's boarding like this, it's seeing how he's able to use the program to manipulate and get himself the desired result without having to redraw what you've made. I feel like there's a lot of instances where you can use what you have already, find ways to play with the program, and the better and more efficient you get at it, the less you'll have to draw initially too, which is, I think, going to help you down the line. And also, assuming you get hired and you're working in a studio, the faster you'll be able to pump out certain sequences for your director, whoever you're working for at that time. So it's efficient for your own work, and it's efficient for teamwork when you actually get put onto a production team.
Yes, absolutely. Way to go, Chris. That was a good sum up. I like that.
I watched the way you work.
Here. We've got Elephant Trainer right here, who's, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then
and we're about at our 15-minute mark, so we'll probably get to our last couple panels and wrap up relatively soon because we're going to want to play this back for you folks.
Okay, we still have one more card to play though. So let's. I'm going to go ahead and do this where I'm going to break that line and I'm just going to scoot it down, just like that. and then have these hands come down. She's going to fall down a little bit more. And we're going to just, clench those fists over. And these aren't going to be very well drawn hands.
I think that's the bane of every artist's existence is drawing hands, right? You either can do it or you can never do it.
So, and then, swing those legs out a little bit. And just add a little bit of a dangle here. And sometimes you can get just really simple, results if you just skew something well.
Yeah. Well, while you're doing that, I'll take it back to a question that I was asked earlier at the beginning, which was the production route, right? We talked a little bit about how to get yourself kind of going in production. And it's a bit different from an artist. And the way that I have seen other folks kind of get in from the ground floor, because what people will tell you about animation is it's a tight-knit circle. But once you get in, you do a good job. It's difficult to not continue to get work. You have to be savvy. And that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. But if you're going the traditional route of getting a resume, applying online, sending that resume in, I have worked at studios as a PA or as a coordinator, where I'm the one who has to sift and sort through the resumes, and the amount of resumes that just kind of sit on the cutting room floor, don't get looked at all, is would really surprise you. The avenue in terms of getting in, you really have to be a bit creative. I think somebody that I worked with was really, really bright and has continued to get work in production. But the way they got in was they started joining Facebook and social media groups that had to deal with animation specifically, where they would have meetups and he would go and meet these people that were working in the industry. And that initial contact, when you talk face to face with somebody, sometimes that overrides the amount of experience. Sometimes that overrides just your technical know-how and what your current skill set is. People like to know that they're going to enjoy working around you. And when it comes to production and you're going to be dealing with a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities, being able that you can display communication skills is going to be very important. So looking for alternative avenues in order to get yourself seen is, I think, one of the most productive ways of getting yourself in the industry. I was very lucky in the sense that I have nepotism working on my side. Oh yeah. My father has worked as a producer for a long time in live action in Hollywood. And he just so happened to know somebody that knew somebody that knew a Karen Tolliver, who is I don't know what her position is now, but she works for Sony Animation. And I had a sit down lunch with her and I said, hey, I've been going to animation school. So keep in mind, guys, it's not just about everything about who you know, but I was putting in the groundwork of having gone back to school, learning how animation was done traditionally, taking classes and courses, drawing, even though I can't draw, and trying to figure out what that's all about. But I did get this sit down, explained who I was, explained having a clear mission and goal and wanting this to be my career. And that resonated enough with her that I was able to get seen by somebody else and then somebody else. And initially, or eventually, all of those interactions led to me getting my first internship, which led to my first PA job, which led to my first coordinator gig, and it snowballs from there. So as an artist, I feel like there's more direct avenues. There's people that, programs and people that will look specifically to look at your portfolios and to try to get you in front of people who will give you an opportunity to draw. With production, you gotta be a little bit more creative, because production people are going to always want to hire internally or hire from word of mouth and those level of references. Not cold calling, but kind of sending out your resumes kind of without knowing somebody at a particular company. It can work. These things do happen, but it's a lot less efficient. So just something to think about for those that want to come on the production side. I'm looking at my time now. I have 1:20, so we're at the 10-minute mark. So Mike, I will let you know when it is time to kind of replay the animatic. You let us know kind of when we get to that point, and I'll kind of just let you chug away. In the meantime, I know that me and Mike have been doing quite a bit of back and forth. If there's any more questions, now is a great time to kind of toss them into the chat. If there's something that you want from Mike's expertise, of course, from the storyboard and director perspective, from my perspective, coming from production. I don't know how often you guys have production people on this show, but I can give you some level of insight. And then I'm probably, in terms of suggestions, we're just gonna be wrapping up here and kind of doing our thing there, but trying to pick our brains and get a bit of wisdom. Your timing is crucial here. And I haven't been speaking to what you've been drawing, Mike, but I have been seeing it in the background. It looks like we're coming towards our conclusion. We have our elephant kind of coming up as our hero, looking down towards our villain. I'll let you.
Well,
Maybe you can explain to
that's
what you've been doing now.
all right. So we have this little shot here, and then I'm going to duplicate this panel. I'm going to get rid of the extra keyframes. Oh, whoops! Just getting rid of the keyframes, not everything else. And then boop. All right, and then we are going to do this, and we're going to scoot them over, skew the body. Sometimes we can get away with this. And so the trainer whistles, and the elephant trumpets out a blast. And we are going to cut to a road.
Ah. So we're getting to our conclusion. As you can see, when we get to our crunch time too, of course, the boards, they will be kind of getting a bit less detail. But what you're seeing is in terms of composition is we're including still the important story elements, right? There's a flow to the story that we're trying to tell. We're making sure all of those characters that we need in that particular shot or panel are present. And of course, the gestures and the positioning and the sizing of that can help inform just how we feel about that as it kind of comes through. We were talking about cinematography earlier on, if you've been around since the beginning. And a lot of that experience can inform what Mike is doing here and how he's laying things out.
Okay. So across the road, we have a crate with a symbol of a banana on it. We have a bunch of barrels.
We're coming full circle. I love this.
And we have, just desert or something in the background.
Well, you know what? That works because often circuses are kind of put in the big fields or empty lots and that sort of deal. So I would not be surprised if this is closer to some level of barren land, right?
Yeah. And then
quick background work. For those of you who aren't familiar, we started off this prompt with some level of Donkey Kong coming across the street to save the day, and it looks like we're trying to get ourselves some type of copyright-friendly version of the Kong Man in here to end off with the story we've been creating.
Well, it's free advertising for Nintendo, so who we kidding? Let's just own it, dude.
Well, as a fun aside, because I want to know your opinion on this because my friends and family have their own deal. But how do you feel about the new Mario movie?
I'm reserving judgment until I see it. So far, it looks like it could be pretty funny.
Yeah.
I think Bowser's going to steal the show. Honestly,
same. You can't beat Jack Black.
I am a fan of Chris Pratt, even though I know a lot of people give him crap online.
That's a hot take.
I've always found him to be pretty funny, and he seems like a pretty nice guy. So,
do you like the voice? Is my question.
I haven't really heard a lot of it, but I don't know. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to stand up to like the Mario voice that we all know and love.
Of course,
I'm gonna say that.
Of course, it can't be beat. And to some level, I expected him. I don't know if he's even in the movie, but he voices 70% of the characters in the series. I thought that he would make some type of cameo or we'd hear his voice somewhere, but I didn't see him in the initial character lineup or voice casting, and I was a little upset. But then again, he does every single Mario voice in half the characters anyway, so I'm sure his bank account is nice to look at. But
that being as it may. I'm reserving judgment until I see the movie, and I will, comment about it maybe some other time.
Well, as someone who's been around since Atari, general consensus on video games now being adaptations, whether it be live action, like The Last of Us now becoming the biggest thing on HBO, or Super Mario Brothers now finally getting its kind of animated movie. How do you feel about video games specifically, starting to make this transition into mainstream media now? Not to say there wasn't iterations before, but yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm I wish Hollywood would get their act together and come up with some new stuff. But and that's where all you budding board artists need to be, is making your own stuff, right? So creatively bankrupt Hollywood has something to produce.
Oh yeah. Well, personally, I'm a fan of it. I'd love to see them take.
It's cool. It's cool, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nostalgia for sure. Okay, so now we've got this, and I think we're gonna do this sort of thing.
Ooh, we got the silhouette eyes, right?
Yeah, I think one of the things we can do is we're gonna copy this, and we're gonna do this. Like that. So we have
You did this earlier where it was just kind of a simple 1-2. I think we did that with our tightrope rocker at the top. Sometimes you don't need a whole lot to show a range of motion, right?
And then we're gonna do something fun here. We're gonna blow up this cart.
Sounds good.
And so
I'm looking at just a couple minutes left as well too, so it's gonna be a quick explosion, I'm sure.
So boop. Oh, we're gonna change it to a black pen. Boop, 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 boop. And we're just gonna watch this thing just stretch to its limits.
That's cool. And just using a previous panel as a quick guideline too, right? Quicker.
Yeah, and then steps. This color selection brush. Oh my gosh, you guys, is the best for doing this sort of stuff and not having to use the onion skin if you don't want to.
I know we're speeding past that, but that is a wonderful tip for anybody in the audience. That's I know we had a question about brushes earlier, but that color. I'm sorry, give me the name one more time, Mike.
This is a color selection tool.
The color selection tool. So yeah, using that and being able to kind of grab one particular layer of a drawing versus another, just kind of quickly and moving it is very efficient work. When you start working in, depending on when you get hired and what level of boarding that you're doing, if you're doing things like thumbing, or if you're, and then eventually doing something like a rough pass, being able to swap between the two of those is going to help you be really efficient from panel to panel.
Yes.
When you're doing official work.
And so we're gonna have like broken cart and stuff, and then we'll see like there's some barrels behind.
We're really going with the Donkey Kong thing. Oh, Nintendo, you must love us. Or Schmintendo. Maybe we can't even say the word itself. Once again, expanding on that, I'm loving the idea of them. As someone who's played video games for a long time, I love that more of those IPs are getting turned into things that we love, and that they're getting the quality that they deserve. Because I used to like the Resident Evil movies back in the day, but oh my God, are some of those movies goofy? But you get something like you might know what I'm talking about. And you get something like The Last of Us nowadays, and people love it. I need to bum somebody's HBO so I can watch it, but I've only heard good things. By the way, incredible pose for our Kong there. That is an awesome pose. Just if you're looking for a good power pose, something that shows a lot of presence, a lot of ferocity and power, like he says, outstretched arms, T-posing, anything that creates width. Is really, really cool for gesturing and characters. So knowing that, you don't have to make something super duper intricate. You can see how quickly he's making this thing happen right here. And that's enough to kind of demonstrate what we're looking for. Time-wise, I know we're kind of at the mark, Mike. So I'm still we should put some
gauntlets on him that just say DK.
That works for me. But as I was saying, time-wise, I feel like we're kind of we're running up to the deal here. So let me ask you: is there? I don't know how you normally do it. If you guys are okay, kind of extending time to try to finish something out, or if we should get ourselves to a place where we can play this whole animatic back for our audience. I'll let you let me know.
We need to play it back for our audience because they're dying to see this whole thing, I think.
I am too, actually. I've been talking quite a bit, but I feel like this thing has been we got pretty complex. And once again, for those of you who may not have joined us in the beginning, we had a couple prompts. Let me see if I can see kind of where it started. Donkey Kong wants to cross the street. We had Elephant Saves Woman in Circus. We kind of combined the two of those things and morphed it into something that has evolved. And I feel like I'm already talking too long. I feel like you're already in a place where you're ready to show us what it's all about.
All right, yeah, I think so. Just one more panel.
Okay, well, I'll let him do that panel, and I'll keep chatting for a second. So, and then within that, we got a couple more things where the trainer is going to be next to an elephant, and of course, we evolved it to our tightrope artist falling down, and then sinister villain that has created that fall down by having a remote control receiver that blew up a part of the portion of the circus. And now, in the very end of it all, our hero Kong Donkey is what we'll call him for now, trying to think of another thing that's DK, but it escapes me. Either way, has busted out of this far off train to come and save the day is what it looks like. And it doesn't look like we'll get the actual, like the resolution of it saved. We don't need that necessarily. It sounds like it should be enough for what Mike is drawing here to kind of give us that conclusion and resolution. But awesome, man. I have not worked with you in some time, so to see that you are still producing on this level at this pace and speed is really, really cool, Mike. It's always a pleasure to see you work. One of the things that I'll keep chatting on, because I feel like I have time while you're doing this, one of the sequences that I know I worked specifically with you on was a dance number back in the day. Can I talk about the show I worked on? Can we?
Yeah,
I don't know. So we were both on a show called Housebroken that's on Fox. I don't know how far along they are nowadays. It's been some time. And there's a sequence in the first season where we have these crazy Mungie cats doing these huge dance number. And Mike was responsible for boarding that. And that is gotta be one of the best boarded sequences that came out of that show. It was cool. It was intricate. And I hope we have time to talk about your the dance party that you do towards the end, because it's obvious there's a correlation. But anyway, take it away. It sounds like you got it.
Okay, I think what we have here just at the end is some one of those like still image sort of things that has like the slow motion effect on it. I'm gonna just place that on a separate layer. I'm gonna place her on a separate layer, and then we're gonna do some quick and dirty layer motioning. So for this, he's going to start here, and I'm going to push end so I can get to the back of the panel, and he's going to come right about here, and then she is going to end here, and I push home to go back to the start, and she is going to be coming from up here, and so we have this little shot here.
Beautiful way to finish.
Okay, let's go to start. All
right, guys, get ready. Here we go.
Okay, so here we go. We have, I'm gonna full screen this bad boy first. Boom. Here we go. All right, we have circus in the desert. We've got a high wire rack. This girl is on a unicycle going over a tightrope. Enter nefarious guy with no reason other than mayhem. And he checks in his jacket as he looks around, turns back. He's got a flip phone, flips it open, and then beep, beep, boom. And all of a sudden, chaos in the circus as this thing starts coming down. We see an elephant that we've seen before, and the trainer that's right there. And we watch this poor girl start to fall, and she hangs on for her very life. And the trainer doesn't know what to do, so he does the only thing he can do, and he blows the whistle. And that in turn, we missed the camera move, goes to our friend the elephant, and that's out of sequence. So we're going to go like this. We're going to change this.
Quick on the fly movements.
Go up, and he trumpets, and we cut to across the street. And inside, the dangerous beast known as Kong Donkey boo comes out in a roar of power, and woof, he's off. And at the last swing, we see Kong Donkey is about to save the day.
I love it. That was awesome, man. Awesome. And quick work done too. I feel like a lot of the good capture of the emotion and pacing of it just in such a short amount of time. Well, let me know. Is it time for us to do the sign off, my man? Or do you want to do any level of promotion talking about anything you have going first?
Well, almost. Pretty soon. I don't know how many of you have seen or heard on this stream. I'm sure some of you have. Animation Dance Party just happened. We had our third edition of it, which is on Toon Boom's YouTube channel. And soon, animationdanceparty.com will be gracing us all and will be able to have its own place where it lives online.
I highly recommend that you check that out, folks, because it's really cool stuff. I've seen some done in the past. Once again, my name is Chris DoQui. I'm a production coordinator. I have nothing else going on outside of my current work schedule, so nothing to plug here. So I just want to say, Mike, thank you so much for joining us once again for Collaboratory. And we talked about the projects already. And thank you to everyone else who's joining us. And if Mike Morris could draw this Kong donkey coming in to save this woman from a high rider in an hour and a half, think about what you could draw in 3 weeks. You can download a 21-day trial of Storyboard Pro from the website toonboom.com and find free video tutorials at learn.toonboom.com. And if you're looking for more interviews, be sure to visit blog.toonboom.com for articles about storyboarding, animation, and 2D games. And until the next time, everybody, goodbye.
See ya.